When I was a kid, I was 10 or 12 years old. I listened to, well, I heard Metallica for the first time when I was like 10. My sister's 6 years older than me, so she was like a, teenager in her room, like blaring music, and I thought it was so cool. So I used to sneak into her room when she was out and listen to her metal records.
She's cutting out the process. Forgetting your excuses for being you. You can with a suitcase packed and waiting by the door.
I got really into metal, and that's what inspired me to start playing guitar. So I started playing guitar at a pretty young age, around 10, 11 years old, and from there just learned more and more about music. And then I kind of discovered, maybe it was 14, 15, I discovered punk rock and discovered not only all the great punk bands that are out there and from before I was born even, but there's that distraction.
What's listening with Northern Massachusetts on his knees to stay? He's begging, please, oh baby, please, I can't explain. It won't happen again.
What I was saying was, all the punk bands that I discovered, but I also realized that there was a great local music scene, even just in my hometown of Oakville, Ontario. There was punk shows, there was hardcore shows, and I had no idea. So it really opened my eyes up to local music and everything. And I'd say, as influenced as I am by punk rock bands and metal bands, a lot of the local bands that I grew up, listening to in the Toronto area, I think influenced me maybe more, just because it was it was something I felt so close to. The new record, it just came out, about 3 weeks ago, and it's called "This Is How the Wind Shifts," and it is a concept album. And we did a concept album before in 2009, and it was very linear. Like, it was a story, it told a story, and it had a very beginning, middle, and end. And with this record, I didn't want to do it like that again. I wanted to do something completely different. So the idea I had was to split it up, side A and side B on the record, and have each song correspond to the other. So the first song on side A corresponds with the first song on side B. And what it's the whole idea about is, if in those stories, if there was a single moment that was different, in the person's life, if they'd make it a different decision, where there would be. So it's kind of like an alternate universe. I don't know if you've seen like the movie Sliding Doors. It's like kind of a cheesy date movie from the 90s, I think. But there's it's that kind of an idea that I think everybody thinks about. People think, oh, well, what if I did this? What if I got an A in science? Maybe I'd be a scientist right now, or whatever. I think everybody, no matter how old, what background, whatever, I think everybody thinks about that, and that's pretty much what the concept of the record is.
He's putting out the fire. He's making her believe he's really changed.
Well, this is our 6th full-length album, and we do one about every 2 years, and every 2 years I'm kind of in a different place in my own life, and where I'm feeling a challenge or what I'm kind of feeling creatively. So this time around, the first 3 records were pretty much, we just wrote the songs, got in the studio, and did it. And then our 4th record was the concept record I told you about. Our 5th record, I didn't really want to do another concept album, pretty much because I almost died when writing that 4th one, because it just destroyed me, because a concept record is involved. So after taking it off with the 5th record, I think with this album, I was ready to really dive into something and challenge myself creatively, and that's what it is. It's an extra step for sure, because usually when a band writes an album, it's music and it's lyrics, and with this, when you have a story involved or a concept involved, you really have to think back and forth about it. There's times when you have to think, okay, this track, let's say this song has to be track 1, and this song has to be track 8. So once you commit to that, and you commit to these songs being about this subject, you can't really change anything. Like our first record, we recorded the songs. We didn't know the track listing. We didn't know how the songs were going to transition or if there were just going to be spaces between every song. So this, you have to plan out how the songs flow into each other, and you have to do that very early on. So you have to really commit to, the songs you're going to put on the album. You can't just be like, oh, this song didn't come out good, we'll cut it. Or we want to add, you can't do that. So it is much harder to do a concept album like that. Well, I think with our sound and what we try to do, is just really be honest with ourselves. We don't forget our original influences, where we came from, and we aren't trying to jump on any trends. It's always funny when you look at a career band, and I guess I'm putting ourselves in that category at this point with 6 records, but you'll see a certain band, you'll be like, wow, that album they did was like kind of weird, kind of out of place, and it's because they were listening to whatever kind of music at the time, or it was really like trendy. Like now you're seeing all these rock bands with these like dubstep songs. It's like, what? We're not going to do a dubstep song, So it's and I remember like 2007, everyone was doing the dance beat thing. It was like all the dance punk. And all that stuff, we just try to ignore it and be like, look, this is where we come from, this is the band we are. And in terms of our sound evolving, it's just something that happens. We aren't going to force it to evolve. We're not going to force a change. I think the best way you can do it is just to be honest with yourself and honest with your fans. And they'll appreciate that too. Well, the labels in music are ridiculous, and they've always been there. I understand people need them to try to classify things and try to group bands together. And I've always felt we've been a very difficult band to just lump in with other bands. And the emo thing, and I was never like, some people were getting pissed about it. Don't fucking call me an emo band. I probably can't swear, sorry. But I was very like cool about it. I was like, if you want to call us an emo band, whatever. If you have to label us something, it's fine. But it was so difficult because there was the emo I grew up listening to was like The Promise Ring and Mineral and Knapsack and sort of a much raw, like more punk rock, underground kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, emo, they're talking about like Dashboard Confessional and like the Ataris and bands that were quite a lot more mainstream. And I think that all of a sudden that turned into screamo, which didn't have anything to do with Dashboard Confessional. So it really got confusing, and I think people didn't know. They call us an emo band, but they didn't even know what we sounded like. They assumed things, because we're primarily a pretty heavy band. So at this point, I don't know. I don't know what emo is. All I know is that 10 years ago, there was a lot of bands that sounded like us, and now we're the only one left. And we're fine with that. We're fine with holding down the fort, and we've always just felt like we're going to do it our way, and people can call it whatever they want to call it. Getting Paul Mark in the band was the best thing I think we ever did. It was kind of weird when we first parted ways with Neil. We were going to write this record with just the 4 of us, which we thought, would be fine, and I think it would have been okay. But then when we decided to bring him in, he's like, "Oh, I wrote a couple things." He comes in, and the first thing he shows us is the main chorus riff on the first track on the new record. We're like, "Oh shit, this riff is amazing. We have to use this." And it was pretty much, I'm gonna say 25 minutes in, it was like, "Yep, this guy's like fully in the band." And he just got it. He's been touring with us for years. He understands, what we're like. He's one of our best friends, and musically he's very gifted at songwriting, singing, playing guitar. He just gets it. So the stuff that he brought in was amazing, fit perfectly with where we were trying to take this record, and I think his songwriting and his guitar playing shines all over this record. kind of been one big like kind of highlight reel. I honestly, every show has been awesome on this tour. I think we sort of, it's kind of funny to say this just like on an interview, but I'm being pretty frank. We sort of trimmed the fat on this tour. You know, we didn't do a big long, 8-week US tour where you're playing like every hole in the wall venue that'll have you. We really just are like played the major cities, and I think that made it more fun for us because, a Tuesday night in like Cleveland is one thing. Like we had a great show, but sometimes when you play, a Wednesday night in like Akron, Ohio, it's not so good. So there's I think this time we really just we stuck to all the markets that were going to be really great and the cities that have been good to us in the past, and then it was just like every night craziness, every night awesome. So I think this is our second last show of the tour tonight in Toronto. Apparently it's sold out. We're still getting mixed feedback on that, but it's going to be crazy again tonight, and every show has just been the same, which is just people freaking out. So it's a really good thing. It's been cool. The meet and greets are great. We did them back, I think in 2006 we did them, and every time it's like, we've always been a very approachable band. We've never tried to be like too mysterious. Like some bands, they don't go out. I go right out to the merch after pretty much every show, and I say hi to the fans and take pictures and ask them what they thought of the show. And I think that's important. So with the meet and greets, it's good because it's another level of that, And people come around in the line and they, show us, write us letters or draw pictures for us, or just tell us like a story they've had or how much our music means to them, and it's really great to hear that from the fans, and just great to see people so excited about what we do. Well, it's funny because the early days I can remember so clearly. Like, I think back to, venues we played. And on this tour, we played a couple venues we hadn't played in like 8 or 9 years. So I could remember, like, what I had for lunch the day we played and who conversations I had with people and practically like what I was wearing that day. It's so weird because then last week I couldn't tell you like anything like that. So it's like these early memories, they seem to kind of stick to you more. I think in the early days, maybe it's everything so new and exciting. You just kind of soak it up a little more like a sponge. And I mean, I have a million memories from those early days, and I couldn't just pick, one moment, but just I remember things like being in California for the first time, and I remember we drove from Portland all the way to San Francisco, and we got 2 speeding tickets on the way, and we were late, and it was like we were so bummed, but we were in California and we were so excited, and it's like it's always been those kind of like the moments the moments that were great, I think back and smile, but the moments that were bad, they kind of make me smile too, because it was just such a cool process, when we started out in this band, and how far we've come. To think back is always cool. Well, we're doing a big summer festival tour in the United States and Canada. We are also going to Europe before that, and Australia again, and Hawaii, which will be fun. And then we'll be doing a bunch more stuff in the fall, probably more Europe, and hopefully another tour in North America. So we'll be really busy supporting this record on tour, and we're also making a new video for our second single, which will be, I think we're going to shoot maybe this month. And we'll be doing lots of online stuff, and we have a 7-inch record coming out too. I can't talk about yet, but I don't know when you air this. Maybe you'll find out by the time this is aired. But so there's lots of things going on. So make sure you check out our website and Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. Oh my God, this is like, he gets so deep all of a sudden, you know? What is life? What is the meaning of life? Is this what you're asking me?
Life is, yeah, basically.
Life is just about enjoying the moment and not worrying about yesterday or tomorrow, and and not worrying about who's texting you at the moment, and just trying to enjoy what's around you at every given second and make the best of every moment. I think that's the most important thing, and I think it's kind of getting lost with this, like, looking at your phone during dinner mentality that everybody seems to have.
She'll fantasize about it every single day, but she can't find it.